Hello, this is Paul Jarvis with the Ohio Developmental Disabilities Council. Before we get started, I'd like to thank each and every one of you for agreeing to serve on a DD Council grant review panel. Your input into this process is extremely valuable and appreciated. As a competitive grant reviewer, you'll be asked to score each application before your panel meets. At the meeting, you'll be asked to engage in discussions of the applications you have reviewed. So let's dive into what makes up a grant application, how the scoring works, and how the grant review process will work. Each grant application will include a number of sections. There will be a cover sheet, a project outline, the project budget, a work plan, and any attachments that will help you make a determination on which project to select. As you can guess, the application will include a cover sheet that includes information about the name of the grant, the project number, and information about the applicant, including names of the individuals working on the project. The next section of the application is the project outline, which includes all of the narrative portions of their grant application. We ask each applicant to provide a project summary to identify their qualifications to carry out the grant, to describe what and how they will achieve their objectives over the next 5 years, what steps they will take to include and underserved populations, and how they will include people with developmental disabilities in their project. There will be a budget where reviewers can see how the applicant proposes to spend grant dollars and how they propose to generate match. The budget justification will appear as a separate attachment and should include an explanation for how the applicant determined how much money to spend on certain things. The budget provided in the application is only for 1 year. Additionally, the project work plan will provide the reviewer with detailed information about each objective the project will work towards in the first year of the project, what activities the applicant will undertake to achieve the objective, and who will be responsible. It should be noted that timelines are also provided. Additionally, the work plan is the place on the application where applicants identify how many people or how many systems change activities they will achieve in the first year of the project. Council staff will likely have input on whether the work plan has appropriate measures and timelines in place. Applicants were also asked to provide at least 3 letters of recommendation, the resume of the project director, and a list of their board members if they have a board. Reviewers can reference these materials when considering a score for the applicant's qualifications. As I mentioned before, each reviewer will get a packet of information for the grant review they're serving on. The packet will likely be emailed to you unless you requested hard copies. The email will include basic information such as the time, date, and location of your review, and will include the following attachments: a copy of the state plan language, which describes the project, a copy of each application, which we just said is made up of the cover sheet, outline, budget, work plan, and attachments, a copy of the grant review stipend form, a link to the online scoring form, a copy of the scoring criteria, and a copy of the review format for competitive reviews. Now, let's review the online scoring form. You will receive a link from the program staff to score each application you receive. Here, you can see what this form might look like using a tablet or cell phone. For this demonstration, I'm going to be using a desktop computer. Once you have read an application through, you should come to the score sheet and start scoring the application. You'll be asked to enter your first and last name and to enter your email address and to confirm your email address. The email address will allow you to come back to a score sheet should you need to save it and return at a later date. The next screen will ask you to identify which DD Council grant you are reviewing. Selecting the drop-down menu will let you see all of the projects. If you don't see your project at the top of the list, be sure to scroll down using the slider to the right of the drop-down menu. Once you select which project and hit Next, you'll be asked to enter the name of the applicant. Please try to enter the name fully because this will be used for your ethics statement. The next screen will describe the two types of conflicts of interest that might occur. A pecuniary conflict exists if you or an immediate family member are employed by the applicant. A fiduciary conflict exists if you or an immediate family member serves on the applicant's board. Once you've reviewed the two types of conflicts, you'll be asked to confirm whether you do or do not have a conflict of interest for the named applicant. You will also be asked to sign your name using either your mouse or the touchscreen on your device. Now that all the formalities are out of the way, it's time to start scoring each section of the application. The first section you will be asked to review is the abstract or executive summary. All scoring pages include a slider bar that you can move left or right. The bar will also describe the score as either bad, poor, good, very good, or excellent, depending upon where you leave the blue dot. After entering a score, you have the chance to leave notes. These are helpful to you as the reviewer when you start discussing each proposal. If you'd like something, had a question, or didn't like something, you should leave a comment or note in these sections. You will also be asked to score the qualifications of agency and personnel. Remember, you can rely on attachments like letters of recommendation, resumes, and their description in the application to qualifications to help you decide a score here. Again, you should make notes of any thoughts you have on why you scored this part of the application the way that you did. The next section is part of the application we call the heart of the proposal. It's the highest scored section of the application and should describe the project in a way that you understand what they will do, how they will do it, and what they will accomplish at the end of 5 years. I do want to point out that even though the slider score is set to 23 as a default, if you don't move the slider bar, you will get an error message that you must enter a score. So be sure to move the slider bar around, even if you want to give them a score of 23, before hitting Next. Of course, you will be invited to provide comments on this portion of the application. Here, you will be asked to review what and underserved populations are and to evaluate the application's response to each question. The final narrative section of the grant application relates to how the project will include people with developmental disabilities and their families. On this screen, I did want to point out that there is a disk icon at the bottom that allows you to save your work and come back at a later date. This icon appears on all of the pages after you enter your email address and applicant information. Reviewers will also be asked to evaluate the budget and budget justification. Council fiscal staff may provide some additional guidance to the review panel during the grant review. The project work plan should include objectives, activities, proposed performance measures or outputs, timelines to complete activities, and the staff responsible. Council program staff may provide additional guidance on this section. For example, the state plan language includes information about outputs or performance measure targets. If these are absent, the staff may point out that changes need to be made. Additionally, we recommend that all work plans include an objective tied directly to the outreach activities of the applicant. Once you have scored each section, you may want to provide overall comments on the project to help your discussion during the grant review. The scoring form will show you the total final score based on the answers you provided. Once you hit Review and Submit, you'll see a summary of the information you entered. The review page allows you to see everything you entered on one screen, and it even allows you to click Edit if you'd like to go back and make changes. Once you hit Submit, the score sheet will be saved. You will receive an email from Jotform with your complete score sheet for that application. If you've made it to this page, it means you've saved your score sheet and council staff can see your score and comments. There is a link on this page that allows you to go back and start all over. As a reviewer, you'll need to complete this score sheet for each application you receive. So you'll likely use this link to review another application. Now, let's talk about how the grant review panel will occur. Each grant review panel will be made up of 3 council members and 2 outside reviewers. The panel will be chaired by a council staff person who will help the panel follow the grant review process. In our example here, we're going to imagine that a panel has been asked to score 3 grants. Panel members will read and score each application on their own. When you come together, the staff may ask you to confirm your score for each grant application. Once all scores are confirmed, a total will be announced for that application. This process will continue until all application scores have been confirmed and tallied. Once they all have been tallied, the staff will ask if it's okay to get rid of the lowest scoring proposal. If no one objects to getting rid of the lowest scoring proposal, then the project will be discarded and not discussed. The staff will ask if it is okay to get rid of the next lowest scoring proposal. It takes only one panel member to object to getting rid of the proposal. If any objections are raised, the proposal will be kept for further discussion. The council staff person will keep asking if it's okay to get rid of projects, even the highest scoring project. Now that you know which projects the panel is going to talk about, the staff will start talking about the lowest scoring project that you still have under consideration. Once the discussion is done, the staff will ask the panel to talk about the next highest scoring project until all projects have been discussed. Once all projects have been discussed, it's up to the panel members to make a motion to select one of the projects. Usually, the motion is to approve one of the applications with conditions. If that motion gets a second, then it's up to the panel to talk about any changes that must be made to the application in order for the project to be awarded. These are called conditions, and a grant must comply before they can start working on the project. Once all conditions, questions, or recommendations have been set by the members of the panel, the staff person will ask for a vote. A simple majority is needed. Once that vote is approved, the panel can be adjourned. Some other key things. A grant review panel does not have to pick an application. If, during the review, the panel decides that none of the applications are worthy, it can decide not to award the grant to any of the applicants. It will be the duty of the panel to identify the reasons they did not award the grant to any of the applicants. Lastly, all decisions by a grant review panel must still receive a final vote of approval from the council. And this concludes our training. Thank you again, and we look forward to seeing you at the grant review.